Yeah.
All right, you're on.
Okay. All right. I'm Andrew Contrino, Green Power Energy. Thanks, Nick, for having me. And this is the Learn About Solar seminar. So I've got a few slides I put together. I'm going to talk about how solar works, how solar makes financial sense in New Jersey, and different ways that you can go about getting solar. But if you have any questions, you can feel free to ask me. I can answer about any question you could think of about solar energy. So who is Green Power Energy? So we're what you would call as an EPC, so a solar company that does everything really. That's what an EPC is. So people that do the installation, the permitting, the financing, the consultations, everything. It's a full turnkey operation. That's actually our headquarters in Annandale, New Jersey. So if you've been out that way, out towards Clinton on Route 78, you get up there. That's actually the train tracks in that photo is the Raritan line of NJ Transit. So you can take that. You could go to New York. It'd take about 2 hours to do it, but that's where we're at. And yeah, our office is actually this building right here, and then that's our solar field that we built in 2011, I guess, when I started with the company. And that powers our office, and then it also powers the other buildings in there. The owner of our company, Rich Muir, he built this whole village. It's known as the Village Green at Annandale, and the heating and cooling is all electric, so it's all powered by this solar field. It's really great. So to put that into perspective, how big that is, it's 322 kilowatts. It produces 400,000 kilowatt hours a year, but it's about 40, 50 homes worth of electricity is what that produces to break it down. So like I said, we do everything. The initial sales consultation. I know Nick put out a sign-in sheet there. If you want to set up a consultation with our company, I can look up the calendars and get you on the schedule also. So be sure to leave your information with me. So yeah, and also our work is warranted for 25 years, which is nice. And we offer the ability for people to purchase their systems or do a solar loan or a solar lease, which I'll talk about. Most people end up doing those finance programs. So then I'll just jump right into how solar works, and I'll try not to bore anybody. But basically, you have the sun's rays, and we're going to produce electricity from the sun's rays. But if we break it down a little bit more, the sun's rays have photons in them. When they hit the solar panel, which has silicone in it, it hits the solar modules, and then the electrons inside the solar module move, and electric current is created. So once the solar comes off the roof, it's in DC form. The first thing it does is it hits an inverter, which is going to change it to AC electricity, which is what we use to power everything in our lives. From there, you have an SREC meter, and that reads your system's production regardless of what you use or don't use. We install a meter that reads the system production. And then it goes into the main electrical panel of the home. So despite some misconceptions, you do have two sources of power. You still have the grid, and you have your solar to supplement it. So your lights will be able to stay on all the time. Now, after it goes to the electrical panel, if you need to pull from the grid, you can. Your meter records that. But let's say it's a really sunny day, and you're not at home, and the solar's cranking. It's going to go back into the grid, where it's going to be virtually stored in a process known as net metering. So you always pay the net of your bill at the end of the month, basically, is what it comes down to.
How does it do that? The electricity just flows the other way?
So before you can actually say you've got the approval to operate and you can turn your system on, I guess it's PSE&G up here, right? Or is it PSE&G? They'll come and they'll switch out your meter with a digital meter. And exactly that, just like the meter can now pull power from the grid, this new technology can bring the electricity both ways. And this device is actually going to record that. So, let's say that you pulled 1,000 kilowatt hours from the grid, but you put 1,000 kilowatt hours back, then your bill is zero. What it doesn't record is the power that you use in real time, right? The power that doesn't end up going back to that meter that spins backwards or forwards, the power that hits the panels and feeds right into your house. But you'll have a monitoring portal where you can see all that and keep track of all of that.
Okay.
But that's how it works. It's a different meter, not like the ones that you would have now.
All right. Okay, thanks.
So the solar installation process, so if you call us up and say we'd like to go solar with green power energy, first we're going to take a look at the house on the satellite to see how it looks for solar. And we can tell right away if something's conducive or not for solar. Sometimes obviously we have to take a closer look, but we can do most of the work from the satellite image. What we're looking for is the pitch, the direction, is there any shade in the way, things like that. We might also check out how old the roof is. If the roof's over a certain number of years old, we might recommend that you re-roof it. We'll then help you pick out a program. We'll do a site survey. We'll do a final design, which the homeowner approves on. And then we go to permitting. So the process from the time that you say, I want to go solar till the system's actually up and running, could be about 4 months. The time that we actually get there to install, that only takes a few days, but these processes end up taking a little bit of time. So it doesn't matter if you go solar with Green Power Energy or any other company. Sometimes they like to paint a very pretty picture that we're going to leave your house, pull into the driveway, and then it's just everything's on. In fact, we sit for a final inspection, then we get the certificate of approval from the township, then the permission to operate from the utility company. That can take a day, or it can take a month sometimes, depending on how quickly things move. But it is a little bit of a process. The good thing about our company is that we are very automated and efficient in keeping you up to date with how that process moves along. We have different milestones at each one of these steps where you're getting auto-emailed and called and kept up on the process. So it's very hurry up and wait, so to speak.
Now, Andrew, this was brought up to me a couple days ago. Now, we have a couple people on the Board of Education that are actually interested in solar for maybe some of the schools.
Right.
But they were saying that some of the roofs definitely need to be replaced.
Sure.
In the near future, so that's why they were holding back on making any decisions with that. But somebody had made a mention about maybe doing it in sections. So what I'm saying is, if a homeowner had, a roof that most of the roof's in good shape, but there might be is it possible to do it in sections?
I wouldn't do it that way.
Yeah.
The state's going to count it as a separate installation every time you put a new panel on the roof. You're going to need another inverter, another one of those SREC meters, everything like that. It'd probably make more sense, like if a whole roof quote is like $10,000, for example, it might make sense to just take care of the new roof.
Yeah, because that was mentioned to me the other day, and I was like, I don't think that
especially
makes
with
sense.
a commercial project or a municipal project, I really don't think it makes sense. I mean, it depends. I mean, a municipality might have a dozen buildings they want to go solar on. Maybe, they just kind of want to get their feet wet, so to speak, and try it on a couple buildings, and that does make sense. But if you're talking about dividing different parts of a building, it doesn't make a ton of sense to do that. It'll end up costing them more money.
I'm sorry, back
Sure.
to the age of the roof. So
Yeah.
on a residential, when you say roof, do you mean the age of the shingles or the age of the actual roof?
Yeah, it's
itself?
age of the shingles. Yeah, so after you sign up and everything, we actually do send somebody up into the attic to measure the rafters, take a look at that. But the shingles, yeah.
So how old is too old?
So I would say if your roof is over 15 years old, you probably want to consider re-roofing. We can make recommendations to you. There's only been a few times where the roof was so bad that we said we wouldn't do it, or we'd have a homeowner sign something saying we advise you that you should re-roof first, because the solar panels will last for 20 plus years.
Right.
So you want to make sure that it's got a good surface to start with. It will extend the life of the roof, the panels, because the rain's not
they're
beating down on
protecting
it, the
it.
sun's not beating down
Right.
on it, but that's just for the exact areas that the solar panels are covering.
Correct.
So you have a whole other side of the roof. So it depends. I've seen roofs that are 15 years old that look brand new, but I've also seen roofs that are 15 years old that are covered in moss and the pieces of the asphalt shingle are starting to erode. Yeah.
So, excuse me, if you had a roof and you installed the solar and say 5 years down the road,
Yeah.
there was a leak or some,
Sure.
roof failed somehow, can you remove the,
Yeah, you can remove the equipment pretty quickly and also without any impact to your existing system, because the way we set it up, each solar panel actually acts on its own.
so
So you
you
can
could,
take one out and find the leak.
conceivably remove the solar panels, re-roof and then,
Oh, to do a whole re-roof job? You could, but it's not easy. I had a homeowner want to do that on her roof recently, and she did, but she had to write us a check for $5,000 to do it. And
to
that,
remove and reinstall.
yeah, and honestly, she got a good deal with that, because we had to take it off the roof, remove the rails and reinstall it. So $5,000 is actually a really good price for that. So I don't want to scare anybody with that. I'm just trying to manage expectations with just saying you should have a good surface to start with.
I'll give you an example. My roof was 6 years old
Yeah.
when I did
That's
it.
pretty new.
I had done it like in 2011,
Right.
so it was definitely worth doing it.
Yeah, that would be fun.
What about the additional load on the roof? What does each panel weigh?
Yeah, so each panel weighs 40 pounds. Most roofs that we encounter can handle it just fine. It's very rare. We'll have to go into the attic and install a knee wall, basically putting another 2x4 across there. That hardly ever happens. What we do is we go in, we measure the rafters, how big they are, how far off on center they are. We then have our architect put a raised steel on a diagram that says not only can the roof withstand the weight of solar panels, but withstand the weight of solar panels with snow on them,
Right.
and hurricane force winds, and in all of that. And we can't get a permit to build till we get that. But that's a very rare situation when a roof wouldn't. Sometimes manufactured homes, we see that.
Do you have any rule of thumb? The home I'm thinking of was built in the 50s,
Okay.
and that's one of my concerns.
We've installed solar on homes that are historical homes. So, and I wouldn't leave it as so much of a concern, because we have it down to a science. We have someone put their professional license on the line, and so we're not gonna install it if you can't. But what we can do is offer to install that knee wall again. You'd be surprised how easy it is to reinforce that attic to be able to withstand weight. That is, if you can get there. It's just pretty easy. Just a trip to Home Depot to figure it out, really. But we take a look at that. So if that's something that you're concerned about, that just have some peace of mind to know that that's something we're checking off our list too.
Okay.
So then once you're up and running, we do a really great job of making sure that you can see your system, and then also making sure that you can sell your incentives. And I'll get into the incentives and the payback and really why it makes financial sense. It's just a screenshot of one of the arrays that you did, and you can see that in real time. You can see the whole wattage of the system. You can see what it's producing by day. You can see what it's producing by hours in the day, months, years. And then if anything goes wrong with the system, you get an email notifying you that something's wrong, and we do as well. And we're right out there right away to fix anything if needed. So how does solar generate income and savings? Because solar is a really great thing. It's good for the environment. We all do that, but 100,000 people wouldn't go solar in New Jersey if it didn't make financial sense. And luckily, we're in a state where it does make a ton of financial sense. It's unexpected to a lot of people to find out that New Jersey is number 4 in the country in terms of solar installations. We're beat out by California, North Carolina because of Duke Energy and their very large solar fields, and then other big states would be Arizona was big for a while, but more closer to us, Massachusetts is a very big market as well. But it's because of the incentives that are in place, and because New Jersey's thankfully prioritized having a really diverse energy portfolio, as they'd say. So the first way that solar saves you money is obviously electric savings. If you have a $200 a month electric bill, we're going to be able to cover that. And actually, before I started talking, Nick made a comment about talking to somebody that felt like they were going to wait till the technology got better. And you can always do that. Of course, people want to wait for the new MacBook to come out, or a new iPhone, or a new car, or something like that. Technology will always get a little bit better, but we're actually nearing what you would call your theoretical limit for efficiency on solar panels. There's only going to be so much more that these solar panels made out of silicon can actually produce. And when we have people call into our office asking to go solar, I would say at least 2/3 of the time we've wiped out their usage with solar. So we've gotten to the point where it's very efficient. Most of the time we're eliminating that electric bill, so you have electric savings. Then you have SRECs, solar renewable energy certificates, and then also the tax credit, 30% dollar for dollar federal income tax credit. So when you combine all these things together, you have a very good return on investment, or you find yourself in the position to be cash flow positive even on a system that's no money out of pocket. And I'll explain each of these. So net metering, this is actually pretty interesting to see. This is an old screenshot that I took of someone's bill. So you can see that once you're up and running, you actually get a new line item on your bill that reads the kilowatt hours in and kilowatt hours out, and then you pay the net of that at the end of the month. So some people will say, well, you know, I want to produce way more energy than I use so I get paid back from the grid. Well, if you're getting paid back from the grid, we didn't really do our job right, because you can only install 100% of your usage. They cap you at that, and you want to set it up so that you're using that solar energy. If you're putting it back to the grid and getting paid back for it, you're making maybe 3 cents, 4 cents per kilowatt hour. When you're pulling from, you know, PSE&G in this territory, when you add in, you know, the delivery fee and all the different charges, it probably adds up to like 16, 17 cents. I'm not sure what the exact rate is in this area. So with net metering, you pay the net every month, and then at the end of the year, you do true up. We recommend that our customers true up in March, which I believe you did, Nick, and that allows you to have the best cycle to take advantage of the sun, because in March, April, May, the sun is so good right now, believe it or not. It's getting close to where it's going to be in the summer, but you don't have your AC cranking and stuff yet. So most of our customers in this time will be building up a big bank that carry them over to the winter, so that it nets. So we try to spread that extra usage out the best that we can for you. And you can see in this one, see, this is an old one, this is 2014. It says banked kilowatt credit is now 832. So that's a pretty good amount of power. You know, maybe a couple $100 worth of electricity that they still haven't even used yet. That's net metering. Does anybody have any questions on how you save on electricity? That one's pretty straightforward. The big thing to understand is you're not going to make a fortune selling the power back to the grid. It's just going to balance out. You're just going to pay it out. So,
So it's pretty much, excuse me,
Sorry.
so it's pretty much set up, the solar panels, so that you're pretty much to zero in regards to your usage, as opposed to the banked energy.
that's the idea. Yeah. So you know, when we're trying to size the system out for you, we're looking at your last 12 months kilowatt hour usage. You know, and let's say that number is 12,000. Then we're going to set you up with a system that's estimated to produce 12,000. It'll come pretty close. It'll go up and down, maybe 5% give or take each year, but we'll get it pretty close.
So what happens if it's just 2 years, and then you have 2 more people come into the house? Could you take that into consideration by putting more panels on the roof in the event that you do have that, or it doesn't make sense to even do that?
Well, we could get you approved for whatever size system you can imagine, but the problem is they won't allow you to turn it on until you're showing that usage in the house.
Okay.
So with PSE&G, they have actually for solar customers and solar companies, they have a load calculator. Because we'll get a lot of people that call in that say, you know, I'm building this house, or I just moved into this house, you know, and we can go and count the rooms, if it's electric heat, measure out the floorboards. So we can come pretty close to figuring out what they use, but to interpret, you know, future usage, you can't really do that. But what we get all the time now is people saying, I'm buying a Tesla and I want to go solar because I have an electric car now, and that we've been able to get them approved for really easily, you know, because Tesla has on their website, you know, if you drive 12,000 miles a year, it's going to be, I think it's like 5,000 kilowatt hours extra, something like that, and you know, we can show the proof of purchase and write it in and get it approved. But again, until you're plugging that Tesla in and it goes up, you may have a little bit of trouble turning it on. Okay. Yeah. So the SREX, and this is where people sometimes get caught up in understanding solar. So the most important thing to understand is this is totally separate from what you use or what you don't use in your bill every month. It's extra. It's an extra incentive. It's nothing to do with what you use or don't use. You have a separate meter that just records solar production. So I guess I'm getting a little in depth, so I hope that's okay, because I could go really simple, or I could talk really in depth about this. But so an SREC is a solar renewable energy certificate, RECs, energy credits. So basically, the utility companies, the BPU mandates that PSE&G, JCP&L, Rockland, AC Electric, that they need to produce a certain amount of renewable energy, and if they don't, they basically are fined in that they need to pay an amount of money for each kilowatt hour that they don't. So they incentivize homeowners and business owners, residents of New Jersey, to produce their own power by rewarding them with SREC. So one SREC is 1,000 kilowatt hours. So our average home that we install might get 10 of those a year. They then get sold on a market. The end user, the end purchase of that credit it does end up being the utility company. And that does get based on supply and demand, based on how much they're supposed to buy back. Right now they're trading for about $220 a piece, and they've been pretty steady there for a long time. The good news for New Jersey is that we have a very ambitious renewable energy future. So Phil Murphy has decided that he wants New Jersey to be 50% renewable by 2030, and it's totally possible that he can do that. But the good thing for solar customers is that means that the SREC requirement is going to have to follow suit eventually in order for that to happen. Mm-hmm. Now it is in a transition period. I know that you're being installed soon, so you're just going to squeak through with the old program. But for the new program, what it's looking like is it's going to be 80% the value of the current program, 10-year program sold at spot market. So it's a 10-year program. I follow this really closely. I'm a member of MCEA, which is the local lobbying group for that, and we lobby the BPU, and that's the latest insider information of what it's looking like. It's going to be 10 years at 80% the value. So that doesn't kill the market at all. It's unfortunate, I think, for the people that sign up and like I said before, I have a hard time as the VP of Marketing at Green Power of really using the SREC thing as a sense of urgency, because I don't want to burn the wrong person. So you've got to go solar now. SRECs are changing, and then this person signs up in June and gets a slightly smaller SREC.
So Andrew, is it still 15 years and 100%?
It's 10 years. It's 10 years now, and it's at the full spot market value. Mm-hmm. So why it's changing is because the first SREC program, SREC Run, was supposed to set the state up to be 5.1% renewable energy, and then once we hit that mark, it expires. So we're coming really close. They anticipate that we will have 5.1% solar in the ground and installed by sometime in November. And then from there, you'll transition to this new program, which will be the same program now at about 80% of the value. That's a transition program. Then a new program starts in 2020, and that is going to be probably a tariff feed-in program. So we're probably going to be leaving this behind. So I think that this is a good program now, even in the transition period too. Because even if it's only at 80% of its current value, I had that wrong, 20% off of where it is now. So, I mean, even if it's at 80% of where it is now, you're still talking over $150 per SREC. You need to remember that in 40 states in this country, they don't even have any solar incentives, and people are still going solar. So really think of this as an extra. Let's just say that you live in Kentucky and you want to go solar on your house. Well, you're just relying on those energy savings and tax credit. Or even Pennsylvania, the SREC's only worth $15, and we sign people up there every week. So I think the SREC program is really great, and even at 80% of its value, it's still going to be an awesome investment. It might change your return on investment from 6 years to 7.5 years, maybe. Yes?
2 questions. Number one, will people who go in on the current program be grandfathered, or does everybody flip over?
Yes,
so
no.
Once you're in this program,
once you're in, absolutely, yes.
All right. And then when you say there's a however much it is per SREC, is that money, where do you see that? Is that a tax credit or money that you're giving back? Or
yeah, so after you're installed, we help you sell them. And it comes in the form of a check once you get one SREC. So we've got a really great program where you send an email to srec@greenpowerenergy. It does involve a little bit of work in that you've got to check your monitoring portal, look at the meter outside, and email us that number.
Yeah, Karen, what I do is I take a picture of my meter, and I send it to them, and I get a check for $200-something every a couple weeks later.
It's
So
a
all
check in the mail,
I
yeah.
do is take a picture and I send it.
Real money.
It is actual real money, yeah. It's real,
As
yeah.
opposed to like a tax credit or like a.
Yeah, it's not a credit. It's a check in the mail. Yeah, it's great. So I showed on the first slide the solar field that my boss built, and so he built that in 2011. He reached his return on investment in 2015, and now he makes $70,000 a year just from the SRECs on that field. So it's It's big money, you know, not just for homeowners. That's why you get a lot of outside investment. You know, you see, it was actually when Rich started the company, it was after seeing Johnson & Johnson start to put solar panels out. He said, you know, if these guys are doing this, this has to make sense. And, you know, they're doing it because it does make financial sense for them. And it's the right thing for those companies, too. Those companies do have sustainability goals.
So Andrew, can you further quantify that for a resident's house? I don't want to put Nick on the spot, but a house similar to Nick.
Sure, our average customer is probably going to take in about $2,000 a year in SRECs.
So do you have to meet up to 1 kilowatt hour before you can sell it?
Yeah, you can't sell 0.8 SRECs or anything like that. It's going to be a full SREC.
So when you see it on your bill that you, or whatever, that you had like 1 full kilowatt hour,
Yeah.
then you fill out this application or whatever it is and send it.
Well, we do the application for you. People can sell them on their own. Some people are more tech savvy, and they just want to go in and handle that. But it's pretty simple to just do it with us. We fill out that form for you. So all you have to do is just send a picture. Say I'm Toby from Elm Street, and this is my reading, and then you'll get a check. Yeah, and I'd always recommend that you sell them as they come in. There's really no advantage to hoarding them or anything. But it's crazy, we have a lot of customers all over the states. I'll call these guys and say, you haven't sold an SREC in 2 years. You've got like $5,000 sitting here. I can get that for you really quickly. So you just sell them right away when they come in.
And you think that's what it is? They think if they're hoarding it.
Some people, I don't know what the deal is. I think that there's some people in certain parts of the state that have so much money that they don't even realize that
Well, that's nobody in this room.
Yeah. Not me in front of the podium either.
I don't know everybody here,
But yeah, it's wild when it comes. One of the customers that did that was actually my friend's dad. I said, Henry, you got to sell these things.
Is that taxable income?
That's a good question. It technically is taxable income, although there's nothing that's written down in stone about that. So with a lot of those financial questions, I would say ask your accountant, because I think you can argue both ways. Because this is an investment that I made, so I'm in the red on this investment. I haven't paid back yet, so you can argue that angle that it's not truly income or profit yet as you're reaching your return on investment. But just like anything in the USA, it is money that you took in. That's a good question, and I don't think there's really any solar spreadsheet that will show taxing those things.
Is there depreciation on the solar panels?
Not residentially, but commercially there certainly is. If you own a business, you can depreciate that equipment just like any other piece of equipment that you would have, and it's an accelerated depreciation schedule.
But not on a residential?
Not on a residential house,
Oh,
no.
that's too bad.
So could you count it as an improvement to your house? So the basis on your house, if you ever go to sell it, is also considered as an improvement. So you bought your house for $100,000, you put $20,000 of solar panels on
Yeah.
there. So your cost basis is now $120,000. So if you sell it, and you get a one-time exemption anyway. But if you had multiple properties, could that consider a permanent investment in your house?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So
Absolutely,
would
yeah.
you increase your taxes?
No,
No.
it'll decrease any capital gain if you only get you get a one-time sale of your home, which is tax neutral. It doesn't affect you. But if you do it more than once or something like that, this basis of your house will be higher, and if you sell it, the capital gain will be smaller, so you get taxed on a lower amount.
Oh,
Because you invested
Yeah.
in
Right?
that money, yeah.
I suppose, I thought you were just talking about the increase to your home's value, which it'll absolutely do that.
No, I'm talking more from a basis of improvement. So
Improvement, yeah.
I suppose. I don't know for sure.
another question,
Yeah.
clarify with your accountant.
Yeah, I mean, and that's really is the best answer. I can't give a ton of tax advice.
Yeah.
I can say that it is income.
You shouldn't even try.
So if we back up just a little bit, so at
Sure.
the end of the, so at the end of the year, this money's coming from PSE&G, it's coming from the BPU, who does
The check is going to come from an SREC brokerage firm. There's companies out there that their
Okay.
whole business is selling SRECs.
and then at the end of the year, they send you a 1099 of some kind?
They don't.
I never got one.
No, they
So
don't.
they don't
No.
report it.
No, I would say that 99% of our customers probably don't claim them.
Well, if they Okay.
If you don't have a 1099.
Yeah,
No way I could.
yeah, I don't think that any of our customers are really claiming it.
Tax incentives, right? So is that
Yeah.
why they don't? Or-
Well, it's not a tax incentive, it's just an incentive, it's just a rebate or
It's an
a,
investment credit.
well,
No,
it's a,
No, it's an investment.
No, I'm wondering
Return.
why you don't get a 1099, and I was wondering if it's because of.
that's a good
the
question.
solar-
I never really even thought about that, but they don't send
It's too many people.
yeah, really.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
It's today.
I don't know, you know? I think that like on our P&L report as a company, that we're probably, you know, counting that as income. So it's probably getting grouped into everything else. But, so SREX can sometimes people freeze up when you start talking about SREX because it's this foreign concept, but just think extra meter installed on your house. Nothing to do with what you use or don't, not related to your electric bill at all. All it's doing is recording energy from the system. And you can get, luckily you can get paid for that. Whether you need to pay taxes on that or not, it's an extra.
And is that what that big thing is?
Oh, that big thing is the inverter. That's the inverter, and then that would be the SREC meter, and then that would be the bidirectional meter, and then that would be the safety shutoff. So we usually put that in the garage. It is rated for outdoor use and go on the side of the house. Most people put them, it really depends on where your meter is. Sometimes it's in the garage, sometimes on the side of the house. Yeah. So the solar tax credit, the net metering, SREX, and then the tax credit is the big one. And then this is an interesting year for that because this is the last year that it's going to be a full 30% tax credit. From here, it's starting to scale down. It's going to be 26% 2020, 22% 21, and then 10% in 2022 permanently just for commercial projects. So it'd be interesting to see what happens in the next few years here. You know, not to get political, but I mean, there's lots of energy sources in this country that are highly subsidized, and I think a lot of people seem to forget that. And you know, without this tax credit, solar would have never happened in this country. Period. It would have never happened. And you know, now you're at the point where we've got this really big market with about 250,000 people employed, and you know, we've done over 1 million installations in the country. It's really phenomenal because of this. So we'll see what happens going forward. I think that it really depends on who's in office, whether this continues or not. But anyway.